Do you ever have trouble waiting? Waiting when you know something good could be happening? There is a psychological experiment that they did back in the 60s, and it's become a pretty popular experiment. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not. But they put a marshmallow in front of a 5-year-old, and they said, if you can wait 15 minutes, I'll leave the room. This was a room empty of distractions and anything except for that one marshmallow sitting in front of her. It says, if you can wait 15 minutes without eating it, I'll give you another one. And the ability to be patient and wait for that is supposed to pay out dividends in later life, in school, in their careers, and everything else. And psychology has shown that our ability to wait and be patient and to hold off instant gratification can help us in our careers, in our families, in the ways that we deal with stress and the different problems that we have in our lives. But waiting isn't always easy. Waiting is difficult. And we practice this, though, in our lives. We teach this to our kids. We give dessert at the end of the meal. And this is one of the tactics that we use to have them eat all of their food and finish all of their dinner before they get their dessert. You have this at your job. There is the year-end bonus. There are special incentives given to special projects or working extra hours or over the weekend or the holidays. They're trying to say there will be something good coming later if you put in the work now. Schools do this. They offer good grades to those who work hard. They teach students are taught that you will, if you work hard, it will pay out not just now, but later on in your life. You can get into a good school. You can learn a good work ethic. You can do all these things and try to implement that into students and people. And so we do this in our lives. We offer these incentives and we push the best for last. But waiting can be difficult. Waiting for that to come is the hardest part. Now we're in the middle of the sermon series about help and about where is God. Where is God when I need help? Where is God when I see difficulty? Where is God when I see terrible things happening in this world? Where is God when I'm talking to Him and I want Him to respond? That was the one that we addressed last Sunday. If you want to catch up on that, the printed sermons are in the back. But now today, we address where is God when I need help? And it's hard to be patient when we're waiting for more than just a second marshmallow. My guess is that you're waiting for help in something bigger than just getting a small piece of sugar for after 15 minutes of being patient. We all have trouble and difficulty in this life, and some is greater and some is smaller. And this is the thing, though, that happens, that in the midst of struggle and trouble, it always seems to be the worst trouble. And there we wait. We wait for God to help. Our troubles are not always earth-shattering, but we want God to assist us nonetheless. And now we see one of these moments when Jesus does help. Jesus helped at the wedding of Cana. Now, of all the miracles that God did, changing water into wine, this was probably the least spectacular when you really think about it. I mean, sure, the wedding party would have been embarrassed, the host would have been embarrassed, and this was a pretty substantial gift to receive in those days. But there was no healings, no raising from the dead. I mean, it was an embarrassment, but really, when you think about miracles, and this is the way Jesus starts his ministry, you would think that it would be something bigger, something bolder. This was like his warm-up act like a juggler does, juggling tennis balls, and then moving on to doing bigger things like chainsaws while blindfolded on a unicycle. But here Jesus is, still helping and assisting. And it's good for us to know this because he will help and assist, great or small, no matter the need. Jesus is helping. But he displays this, and I want to show you how John tells the story. John says in chapter 2, verse 1, 3 days later, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, who is Mary, which, by the way, he never mentions her name, Mary, and it's significant, and I'll tell you about it in just a moment. But verse 2 says this, Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the wedding. Now, he gives these details to say this is a verifiable event. This actually happened. Jesus did display his glory in this way. And he tells us about it. In the wedding, they ran out of wine. Would have been an embarrassment. But Mary has an idea. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no wine." Now, we don't know what prompted Mary to make this request of Jesus. Whether it was she saw something or experienced something as Jesus was growing up, or whether she was recalling back to when the angels said, "This will be Emmanuel," which is God with us. We don't know, but she does ask Jesus to help. And we know that this is a request for help because of the conversation that happens right after this. And Jesus said to her, "Woman," which isn't a derogatory term. Remember what John calls Mary so far? His son, or his mother, Jesus' mother. Now Jesus is distinguishing himself now from Jesus' mother. Jesus, let me get my words straight, is distinguishing himself from Mary being his mother. And he's going back to being the Son of God. As he's starting out his ministry, he's emphasizing, Mary, know who I am. Dear woman, what does that have to do with you and me? My time has not yet come. Jesus knows the timing. He knows exactly when. How do you think you would have responded if you were Mary? What? Who are you to talk to me this way? I am your mother. You help when I ask you to help. She doesn't do that. Her trust is amazing. And this is what she says. His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." This is spectacular. No reaction, no condemnation to Jesus and his words, but trust. There comes a point in time in every single one of our lives when, so to speak, the wine runs out. We have struggles and we have difficulties. And whether they are great or small, they come to all of us. Sometimes they come by outside sources, something that we have not caused, but happened to us. Where is God when I need this help? Sometimes they are the cause of our own sin. We create trouble. But in either way, we cry out to God and we want God to help. Far too often, it's easy to give in and not be patient. Or fail to ask at all. But sometimes when we do ask, we're sitting here toe-tapping our request before God and waiting for him to answer our every beckon and calling. And then we put a false expectation on God when he does not help in our way, in the way that we thought was best. And then we think somehow God has failed us. We whine and we complain when things happen. Waiting can be hard. And this makes God's gifts all that more amazing. Because we think or we act in our requests as if God owes us something, but God doesn't owe us anything. But this is what makes his blessings that amazing, is that even though he doesn't owe us a thing, he still blesses. He still answers our call. He still helps and he still assists in his own way, in his own time, because he knows what is best. And Jesus, knowing the best timing and the best response, does this. 6 stone water jars, which were very large, it tells us about the size, which the Jews used for ceremonial cleansing, were standing there, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told them, fill the jars with water, so they filled them to the brim. Then he said to them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. And they did. I love the response that the servants have. They just listen. Obviously, to Mary's request, listen to what he tells you. And then to Jesus, every single step of the way, they listen. And they see what happens. When the master of the banquet tasted the water that had now become wine, there it is. They see what happens. God assists and God helped. But this is also fun. See, nobody really knows where this help comes from except the servants. Oh, I lost my place. Master of the banquet, there we go. Though the back up even further. He did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. This is the way God usually displays his glory. Under the cover, under a disguise. He's not out there doing fancy miracles all the time nowadays. But he does so under a disguise. And often that disguise is suffering and pain. And he brings his greatest blessings. And the greatest blessing is still yet to come in this story. And this is a significant blessing. In today's standards, this would be 60 to 70 cases of wine. That's a significant gift for a wedding present. But yet the greatest is yet to come. Because the others knew who did this and what happened. So the master of the banquet called the bridegroom and said to them, everyone serves the good wine first, and when the guests have had plenty to drink, then the cheaper wine. You save the good wine until now. The custom was, you bring out the good stuff first, and then as people drink a little bit more and their palates become less distinguished, you bring out the cheap stuff, the less expensive stuff. But God saves the best for last. And here's the best. It's this next verse. This, the beginning of the miraculous signs Jesus performed in Cana of Galilee. He revealed his glory, and, this is it, his disciples believed in him. See, the times when God did display his glory, it was to those who already trusted in him. These disciples were already followers. He talks about them in the previous chapter. When he displays his miracles, those who have trust in him, their faith is strengthened. Through the eyes of faith, we can see and understand that God helps. So we look around at all the blessings that God has given you. In the midst of trouble, this is one of the greatest things that you can do, is to relieve your stress, is to look around and choose something to be thankful for. And you will notice how your stress level will come down. And John does this in the book, though. He always points to some great instance where Jesus can strengthen the faith, not create some huge miracle to help prove it to them, but strengthen the faith of the disciples. This is really what Jesus is after. And all the way it leads up to the greatest of all events, Jesus' death and resurrection, the greatest of greatest miracles. And I know we talk about that one every single week, his death and his resurrection for you, for the forgiveness of sins. But this is why. Because this is the greatest way God helps you and assists you. Not to alleviate all of your problems, but to strengthen your faith by reminding you how much he loves you. And he showed how much he loved you by dying on the cross for you and rising again, the greatest of all greats. And this is what strengthens our faith. The greatest way that God can assist you is to increase your trust in him. And it comes from hearing this good news of Jesus. Isn't it fascinating that psychologists discovered that waiting for great things to come proves to be beneficial for us? I wonder who designed that. Jesus does this over and over again. God displays it over and over again. And just wait, because the best is yet to come. The greatest of greats is yet to be there when God feeds you in this banquet in heaven. Then you will have the greatest help from God. Yes, the best is yet to come. Amen. Now in response to all of the things that God does for us, let's sing our next song, hymn 610, Now Thank We All Our God.